Yep.
And people seem into it. The listeners seem into it. I want to say a big thank you, by the way, to Ben and Alex for covering Dead City. They were great on there.
Yeah.
I'm glad Ben got Alex to do it because they were a great duo.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm most of the way through it. I'm loving it. Their combo is great.
Yeah. And both of them are going to be back for different episodes of the rewatch. I thought it would be fun to have them come in when Negan comes around, when we get to Negan in the rewatch. So they'll be back for that. Yep. And if they want to come back and do more Dead City, which I think they do, then they're more than welcome to do that too.
Awesome. Yeah. They just announced a third season for that, I think.
That's right. Yeah. And a new showrunner.
No.
We'll get to that when we go into the news section.
Okay.
But before we get into this episode of the rewatch, I have a couple of announcements. Number one, Karen and I are going to be podcasting together on a series again.
Yay!
Yeah. I didn't know if I ever thought that would happen, but it's going to happen. I'll get to the details in a second. First, I want to mention a few of you have been writing in going, why are there like hundreds of episodes missing all of a sudden of like the Walking Dead cast? And that is because I started getting all these notices from Spotify that there's copyrighted music in there, because I always had so much fun picking just the right song to put in the interlude, and it came back to bite me in the ass.
No.
And so they actually took my Spotify account away, and I'm like, okay, I need to take care of this. So yeah, it's a bummer. It's my own fault.
Yeah.
But I had to go in and take all the episodes down, and my plan is little by little to go in and edit the songs out and republish them.
Oof.
But it's going to take a long time, like years,
yeah, that's
right?
a lot of work.
Yeah. So that's where Lucy, she's actually doing that right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, good. Yeah. Some intern work for her in that trunk.
I hope she doesn't listen to this. But no, but you, at least as of now, you still can hear those episodes if you go to podcastica.com and search them up. You have to play it right from the website. So if you were listening along and you want to hear it, you can just go search for the one you want and play it from the website. It's a little bit of an inconvenience, but at least it's as of now still available.
Yep, it's still there. Yeah. It's like we're back to the beginning of the podcast where you had to download it on iTunes,
do stuff,
and get it on an iPod. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. If you really want it, you can get it.
It's a retro podcast.
Another announcement, Daryl season 3 premieres September 7th. So that's not too long from now. So we're going to just keep going week by week with the rewatch, but then we'll take another break for the Daryl show. And I'm looking forward to that. It's filmed mostly in Spain, and they use a lot of Spanish crew people and get really into the culture of Spain and everything. So hopefully that'll be cool.
Yeah.
And this announcement I'm really excited about. I started a new podcast. I kind of want this to be my main thing. I mean, it'll be like a 2-pillar thing, The Cast of Us and this new one. I'm putting a lot into it. I'm hoping it'll be a big hit. It's going to be my main podcast where I talk about new shows, and it's called Wax Episodic. And the first show that we're going to cover will be the upcoming Alien Earth show that premieres August 12th. That will be hosted by me, Kara, and you, Randy.
Oh no.
Did you know that?
I'm not ready. Yeah, I'm super excited. The show's coming up soon, so we're going to be hopping in. Got to get freshly waxed.
we every week, yeah. We Kara and Randy and I already covered Alien, the 1979 original movie, and we had a lot of fun, right? That was great.
Oh, yeah. So cool to revisit. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing Aliens next, and then we'll get into the series starting August 12th. It's showrun by Noah Hawley, who did Legion and Fargo, 2 of my other favorite shows. So yeah, I'm super excited about that one. I think it's going to be great.
He's also done a bunch of episodes of Bones. So if you're a person who watches Bones, maybe there's going to be some of that in this.
That's cool. Next show after that on Wax Episodic, because like I said, I'll be doing more shows on that single podcast. That's kind of the idea behind it, to just do one podcast with a bunch of shows instead of a bunch of different podcasts. And that's going to be the upcoming, as of yet untitled, Vince Gilligan series. He's the guy who was the creator of Breaking Bad and was involved with Better Call Saul, and he got to start on X-Files, and he's got this new show. It's going to be kind of a sci-fi show. It's really mysterious. Doesn't have a title. We don't know much about it, but Karen agreed to come and do that one with me.
That's so cool.
So if you miss me and Karen and you want to hear us and you like Vince Gilligan, or even if you don't, that's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited. And please, everyone, if you want to hear that, go right now to waxepisodic.com and click through to subscribe to it, or you can just search for it on your podcast platform of choice, because we already have that one Alien episode up.
Yep. We'll give you a minute, actually. Yeah, we'll sit here quietly for just a minute. You do it.
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Oh, okay, yeah, me too. I'll do it on camera.
They should be done by now, right? It doesn't take that long. Thanks, everybody.
Super fast now. Yeah, thank you.
And then I guess that's it. That's all for the announcement. So let's get into this week's episode. Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 13, Alone. You requested this one when I asked which one you'd want to do. Why was that?
Yes. I really like the character of Bob.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
He really draws me in. He's like an optimistic character. In this episode, we get like a little bit of his backstory, and I think that's mostly the draw for this one. Is I feel like I kind of have like I relate to him in a way. He's an optimist and he likes to break tension with humor. Yeah. But he's also got his demons. I would not say my demons are as dark as his demons, but I could totally see. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say it on microphone. But yeah, I can totally see being like in his situation and like locking myself away in a cage and just like drinking away, staring at zombies, like if you were in the zombie apocalypse. But then I love that the flip side of him is when he's with people, he's like the not moral compass, but the emotional compass to a degree, where he's just like, guys, we can still be good people. There's still good in the world, and you don't get a lot of that in this show. So I think that's what really draws me to this one.
I had forgotten what happened in this episode, because we have the Grove coming up and then the big finale of the season, some of the best episodes of The Walking Dead ever. And I'm like, I remember there was a string of good episodes, but all I remembered from this one was that Beth got kidnapped. So watching it again, I was like, yes, Bob. Oh, I love Bob so much. And even more now, like I also find, I think you and I have some things in common, and also Bob, the three of us. And so, so I really, I loved it too, just for that same reasons that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Really good. All right. Would you like to read the plot summary?
I would. While following signs to Terminus, Maggie, Sasha, and Bob disagree on what they should do. Maggie, still anxious about Glenn's fate, leaves on her own. Bob leaves to follow her trail, while Sasha decides to remain in a small town and ultimately saves Maggie from a horde of walkers and agrees to continue with her. Daryl and Beth come across a church where they take refuge, but when the church is invaded by walkers, Daryl covers for Beth's escape, during which she is captured by someone in a car with a white cross on its back windshield. Daryl is suddenly captured by another group of men.
Was that a church or like a funeral home?
I think it was like a
mortuary.
Yeah, probably a funeral home, because it had the spaces downstairs with like the tables. So I would assume that guy didn't just like bring those there. Probably were there.
Before we go into our points, I started kind of doing this on The White Lotus, and I feel like it's going to work here too, where I just talk a little bit about the themes, overarching themes of the episode. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's called Alone, but I think it's about the importance of community and togetherness, and people feeling alone but longing for other people, and then the tension between that and not trusting strangers, and being afraid to try to meet other people who you don't know. And then another related theme, optimism and hope versus pessimism and pragmatism. So like, are there good people left? Should our characters risk themselves in hopes that their friends are still alive, or just accept they're probably dead and do the best they can to secure themselves? It's all about that kind of thing, like balancing the desire for connection and friendship and help with the fear that there's no good people out there and you just need to take care of yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And I think because you and I both vibe with Bob, we
Mm-hmm.
well, actually, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm curious, maybe because I know for me, I'm definitely focused on being open to new people, but I want
Yep.
to be careful about it. I don't want to be stupid, but I think vulnerability is important, not just because, I'm lonely and I want to be around people, but I think ultimately that is a strength when you open
Yep.
yourself up to new people, bring them in, and then you're all together. Like Maggie said, I can't do this alone. When you
Mm-hmm.
successfully have a bigger group of people that all care about each other, then you're stronger for it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I'll take those words, put them into my mouth.
Yeah,
I
but
agree with that.
because then like Sasha, on the other hand, she's more like, no, let's hunker down, the two of us.
Yep.
And I mean, you have to balance. Like I was thinking about me and my wife Jenny. We're sort of similar wavelengths as Bob and Sasha. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jenny got like reinforced earthquake struts for the beams in our house, because we're in
Yep.
San Francisco, and she gets every kind of insurance known to man. And I'm grateful for that because, we're going to be taken care of if anything happens. And like when we go out in San Francisco, the parking sucks. So we get like 3-4 blocks away. And if she sees a spot, she's like, take that spot. And me, I'm like, no, let's go right up to the place and see if there's something there,
Yep. There
let's
could
take
be
that
something
risk.
better.
And there often is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Sometimes
don't
not.
always have to be afraid that that's the last parking spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drive all the way to Terminus and then come back
That's right,
slightly.
right. Go until you meet the cannibals and then run
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One of the themes that I wrote down was the optimism versus pessimism in this episode.
Mhm.
And I think Daryl and Sasha kind of start out this episode as the pessimists. Daryl even claims he doesn't think there are good people left in the world, or good people didn't survive.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, Sasha just wants to hunker down. She's like, I've got this. I don't need anything else. Whereas Beth and Bob are the optimists of the episode. Beth sees like beauty in the funeral rituals, and she wants to thank the owner of the house. And Bob believes if you're with people, that's when you're doing well, regardless of the people, it almost seems like for him, which could be a flaw in
I
his
think
logic.
So. I mean, you're
yeah.
looking at this going, man, I admire Bob so much. And then it's like, wait,
Yep.
what happens to Bob again? Oh, yeah.
Right.
He goes to Terminus and gets eaten.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in the Walking Dead way, the two optimists of this episode end up being the ones who don't last very long.
Yeah. And like my brain never wants to be like, okay, that just says you're wrong, brain.
Mhm.
Instead, I'm more like, okay, well, they went to Terminus and they met up. Everybody met up and some did not survive. But because they took that chance, the show was able to continue on, for one thing,
Right.
but most of the people were together and they did need to do that. And when they say Bob's like, Glenn might see this sign and go to Terminus, and Sasha's like, well, he might see the sign and be afraid and not go. And Maggie's like, no, I think he would believe and go. And they're right. Like he does. He sees the sign and he goes there. So, but then when Bob says, look, it says community or something, that's another sign that we should go there. Well, he's wrong about that. Like it's bad people there. And they're talking about whether there's good or bad people left in the world. When they were saying that, I was thinking, man, Daryl hasn't even met like Abraham or Eugene or Rosita, Aaron, Ezekiel. There's so many good people left to meet. But also now he ends up with the bad people at the end of this episode. Yeah.
Yep. Who could arguably be some of the worst people in the universe.
Yes.
So.
But I'm also looking at Sasha and just loving all the scenes with Sasha and Bob. I'm like, Negan, he's the reason why she's gone now.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I will say I do think both Beth and, lesser extent Beth, but Bob dies pretty happy. Like he's surrounded by his loved ones. He still keeps his optimism when that happens. And Beth, it's a sad and sudden death, but she's kind of going out like attempting to rescue somebody, and it's doing something she believes in. So it's never in like I stopped living the way that I wanted to live. So they kind of live that way right to the end.
Yeah.
So I think that is a good sign. Whereas somebody like, I don't know who's a good example. Like,
I mean, most
know,
of the time on these shows, when people die, there's something to be taken from it, whether it's that they did it on their own terms, or at least that somebody else, it impacted them in a way that made them want to do better or something like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is unlike real life. It's probably not always like that in real life.
Well, that's kind of like, I know it's not this episode, but I kind of like the way Beth goes out. And it's because it's so sudden and it feels like it's dumb and it feels like there's no, doesn't feel like there's a meaning to it. And I think that's kind of the reality. It's maybe not the best for a TV show or a narrative where like that's kind of what you're there for, but I kind of like it. I love when Beth died. I'm going on record as that.
And that's our show. No, I liked that about Axel's death. It was just so sudden. Beth, I guess I don't feel that way. I was thinking about it like Beth gets kidnapped in this episode, and this was a great Beth episode, and we're going to get into it. But then we don't see her until season 5, episode 4, Slabtown, and that's 7 episodes from now. But it's 8 months we had to wait to figure out where the hell she got taken away to. I remember that, like, Beth's in the trunk of a car. What's going on? And then I think she was only there for 2 episodes, right? And then died. Maybe, or 3,
because they kind of combine those. I always assumed, again, we're going off track to another episode here, but I always kind of assumed with season 5 that they wanted to start the season with Beth waking up in the hospital and then intersperse it a little bit, but I don't think the timelines matched up or something, because it feels like that's what happens to Rick in the first episode, and it seems like the type of thing you would start an episode with. Because I feel like her time in the hospital feels very condensed, and it seems like she wakes up and then like a episode later she's sort of ingratiated in like their day to day, like everything they do. And I think with some more breaks, it might have felt a little different. So I do wonder if there had been a plan to show her sooner, but you know, the show is what it is. And those first few episodes dealing with the termites is just so good. I wouldn't want those broken up.
I just, I feel like this, for me, and I'll reevaluate when we get to those last Beth episodes, but for me, this is almost like Beth's swan song that we just saw here.
Yes.
Because I remember those episodes being kind of a downer. But I want to be open-minded because I've definitely changed my mind about some things during the rewatch. And one of our, I think, newer listeners, Kelsey McNamara, requested to be on the Slabtown episode, which
cool.
I'm happy about. And then Becky Fenner Anderson is going to be, I guess, season 5, episode 8 is when Beth dies. I always love it when people request to be on episodes that fans generally either aren't sure about or didn't like, and they want to stand up for them, like Rebecca Louise and Nathan Eshelman wanted to be on the 2 Governor episodes, you know, and talk about why they like them. So maybe it'll be kind of like that.
For sure. So we're being optimists again here.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Or at least hopeful. Yeah. I'm having some hope. Yeah. And I do remember liking some things about those episodes. I liked the acting of some of the new people from the hospital and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get into our points. You want to go first?
Sure. Well, I'll dive right into Bob. So I did request this. I requested this episode like a while back, and I just remember loving it and liking his backstory, and I couldn't quite pin exactly why, but this episode opens with like a silent intro, which is what The Walking Dead does best. It's a universe where being quiet would be important, not attracting zombies. So this whole intro where we're seeing Bob and how he survives and the way he finds to deal with when things get quiet, as he puts it, which is basically isolating himself a little bit and attempting to get drunk on anything he can find. It's so like sad and lonely, and the music that's playing at the same time really adds to that. The song is the Blackbird song by Lee DeWise, I think is how it's pronounced. And it's a very like sad and lonely feeling song, but it's got a hint of hope. And it actually turns out that artist wrote this song in hopes that it would end up on The Walking Dead.
Oh, wow.
So it was basically designed for this. But I just, seeing Bob so sad and so beaten down, and getting to see early style Walking Dead where you're just seeing somebody wandering around in an empty world, and for all he knows, there's nobody else out there. And then two of our characters roll up. And I think at the time it probably was a little confusing because you don't realize this is Bob before the prison fell.
Yeah. I think they did that on purpose. You think it's post-governor attacking prison. Yeah. And I did this time too. I had totally forgotten that it was a flashback. I was like just trying to build my thoughts around the idea that Bob somehow ended up alone, because I think we'd already seen him with Sasha and Maggie, right? But then all of a sudden Glenn and Daryl show up, and I was like, what's going on here? Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's so good. And seeing them again, and I feel like also at the time watching it, being able to see them not like kind of beaten down during this chunk of episodes where the group's scattered, you get like another moment of like, oh, remember they were together and they were finding each other, and Bob just not needing any information from them and hopping into the back of the truck. And he's like, as long as it doesn't matter who you are, and that you see him start smiling all of a sudden. And he's just sitting in the back of a truck. And you're like, that's crazy to just find two strangers. And you're like, all right, my life's turning around. But it's appropriate for who he is.
Yeah. I mean, he's very much about wanting to be with people, clearly. And that is something that I do feel on the same wavelength for the most part. I want alone time as well. It's important to me, but even more important is like bringing people together and having people in my life, right? And it's just like one of the main things that for me makes life worth living and great.
Totally.
So I totally understand that. But man, I mean, it's interesting because usually if someone said, I don't care who it is, like, what if it was like a Tinder date? Like, I don't even have any questions about you. Let's get married. You know, it's kind of like that, right? It feels desperate. But the way that Lawrence Gilliard Jr. plays it, he just has this lovely quality about him where he can say, it doesn't matter to me. I just want to be with you. And you're almost like, oh, what a great guy.
He's so nice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I love seeing just like, in just this few minutes, you see like basically his low and then almost one of his high points here with him just being with these two people. And then a few minutes later, you see him fighting zombies in the fog, and he's separated, but he's still so happy to be with people. And Sasha calls him out for it and is like, you've been smiling since we survived. And she's like, what's that all about? And he's like, I'm not alone. And like, to have that be the one thing that like keeps you going and happy, especially in the zombie apocalypse, is super important, especially for his character.
If that's all you need too, then that's good, because you don't have much else.
Right. Not much food or anything.
I almost wish he hadn't said that, by the way, just because I was already thinking it, and then they kind of spelled it out.
Yeah, they do. I feel like this episode does a good job of showing and not telling, but then also they do a bit of telling.
Just that one line, really.
I think Daryl says something a little later too, where he's like, wait, this place is clean. Clearly somebody like set up all of this food and they might come back. And it's like, I think we got that.
Most of us are smart enough to know that.
Right.
Maybe there's a few that needed to hear it, so I guess it's okay for them.
Well, one of the things that I noticed, and I think I remember this from the first time you guys had covered this, the fact that we see Bob eating sterno. And I think the question was like, is that food of any sort. And I think what it is that it contains ethyl alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's trying to eat it in hopes of just getting drunk.
Mm.
Like we see him also drinking cold medicine. So clearly he either has worked through all of the alcohol in the area and he's just looking for something, or that's all that's available to him. And from what I understand, the cough medicine, it might do something for you. Sterno is going to make you very sick.
Mm.
So they cut out the scene where he was like having explosive everything for a couple of days.
They had that just to show, the depravity of the situation.
Yep.
Because now after that, like I remember at Walker Stalker, I would just see a lot of Walking Dead fans eating Sterno because they saw it on the show. So
yeah, there should have been a disclaimer.
I'm just kidding, by the way. I never saw
that. But yeah, I love his just like laying there, looking up at the zombie, like reaching down for him. He's like slightly detached from reality, but it's almost like he's not alone for a minute there too. He's got somebody there in a very drunken, dark version. But yeah, just going from all of those lows in that really quick sequence and also getting a little bit of his backstory, the fact that two groups, he's lost them and he's the only one who has survived out of each one. I don't even want to know what that story is. Like, I think it's better just said that way because we've seen it with our groups and other people they've brought in. It's usually just something happened.
Yeah, he killed them all. No.
yeah. I mean, I feel like that's a question that would have come up
at the time. Yeah, but now it's just like, it's the zombie apocalypse. Like,
yeah. People die.
Yep.
But to see that contrasted with his, like, just so much optimism the rest of the episode, even though his circumstances are like 2 degrees better, and it's just because he's, hanging out with 2 very beautiful women, but he's just not alone.
Yeah.
And that's all it's taken.
And just, the idea that he does end up dying at Terminus, and the fact that, like, all these episodes are showing these hopeful signs, those who arrive survive, community, sanctuary, and it ends up being cannibals, is so very Walking Dead to just put out this hopeful thing and slap you in the face like it's Sophia coming out of the barn all over again. But the inspiring thing about that is that this is a show about persevering under the worst adversity possible. I mean, It opens with most of people on the planet dying. So it's just like, even though they just keep getting hit, they keep going until, and then they have moments of lightness and greatness. And, you have Ezekiel saying, "And yet I smile no matter what happens to him." And even here, like watching Bob, I felt sad thinking about his eventual death. I'm like, I love Bob and he's just going to die. And it made me wonder if some listeners are like, yeah, why do we even care because we know he's just going to die? I don't think listeners would be like that, but maybe a few people might be like, why does this story matter? Because he's just going to die. And I'm like, yeah, we're all going to die, but we just we appreciate the moments that we have. It's all impermanent, and so we have to appreciate these great moments with Bob, knowing that it's going to be cut short pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, him and Ezekiel meeting would have been amazing.
I know. Yeah.
It would have just been a back and forth of, and yet I smile, and yet I smile.
And all the women rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
They're shown like, whatever. Carol.
Yeah. I like that he's a funny character too. Like, he does break tension a bunch.
Yes.
Like, he gets bit on the shoulder, but he's got the bandage on there already, which, it does bring up the question, why not just bandage your whole body if that's all it takes? But they're tired. My thought for those is always, they're tired, they're malnourished, there's no supplies, nobody's thinking about that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it is just, if they were too smart, then there would be no story. Like, they really should have had a rendezvous point in case anything happened at the prison. and they could all just be meeting there right now instead of having to write messages in Walker blood.
You know? Which I do love that throughout this show you constantly see messages written, and finally we see like the birth of some of those messages, because you're like, who's writing these things? Well, Maggie's writing some of them. But yeah, when Sasha goes in to give him a hug after they just had the intense Walker fight in the fog, and he's like, ow, ow, and then he's like, I said ow, I didn't say stop.
I love that so much.
And even Sasha
it's kind of flirty,
right?
Yeah. Yep. I can't remember because it's been a while since we were at the rewatch. I remember there was some interaction between the two of them, but maybe there was a little bit flirty, but nothing.
Yeah,
like,
I
this
think
is
there
the
was
episode
just like a little
where
bit.
There's really they're kind of together.
I think it's the culmination.
Right?
I think I also can't quite remember, but I don't remember there being like a distinct this type of situation. But yeah, also him like laying down to go to sleep. She's like, you need to get some sleep, and he lays down and waits a minute. And he goes, well, I tried.
Very good. And that scene in particular, they also just kind of had a heart to heart, and I love that there's this lone growling zombie trap somewhere off screen. Right. It just added this artfulness to it or something. Like, man, The Walking Dead, the show, I really appreciate even more how good it is going back, because the spinoffs have their moments, but they like, you can have a really relatively quiet episode like this, although it did have some awesome zombie action, but still, it's about the heart and the small moments and the character, and you just care so much. And then, I mean, I watched all of Dead City. I enjoyed parts of it, but it feels like a reliance on a lot of gimmickry and trying to show some cool zombie thing or something. And I'm like, where's the heart, you know?
So one of the things I feel like I keep coming back to, because I agree, I love the whole series, but this chunk really feels like strong, and it really it resonates with me. And I think part of it is that it is such small groups at that point, where every decision every single person makes affects everything that could happen later. Like, Bob just being optimistic through this episode was why they found Glenn and all the other people. It's also partly why he dies. But in later seasons, you know, somebody doing something within the Commonwealth, there's so many people and so many like mechanisms built in socially that it's not going to have the same effect that a single decision would make. So it's harder to like really key in on those quiet individual moments and have it feel like there's meaning to it.
Even still though, like, I mean, that was part of the point of the Commonwealth, is when you get into these big societies, it starts to feel impersonal, like you're just a cog in the machine that doesn't matter so much anymore. But I still cared a lot about the characters, and there were like moments with Daryl and Judith that were just, you know, had my heart going. And
no, I still enjoy them. It's just I feel like I think about the decisions the characters had to make early on, and they feel like things, it's sort of decisions people can't really, like, day to day, you can't make a decision. I don't know quite what I'm trying to say here. Like, like when there's a smaller population, your decisions become more impactful. And I think,
and things are fragile too right now. Like, it's, you know, on life support and could fade away at any moment, but people are doing their best to keep things going, and then they sort of blossom later on, but it becomes a bigger machine where not each person isn't quite as significant, maybe something like that.
And it's not that it's bad or wrong, it's just
different.
It's a different tone. So I think that's what I got for Bob. What you got?
Let's see. I want to talk about, this is kind of my longest point, but Bob, Maggie, and Sasha, which I felt also was the heart of the episode. It had everything about community and togetherness, but also fear of failure and hopelessness and optimistic perseverance, found family, just a lot of the themes of The Walking Dead. So they see this terminus sign, sanctuary for all, community for all, those who arrive, survive. That's going to be, of course, something that Bob really responds to, because he is all about community and togetherness. And Sasha says odds are Glenn is dead. If they keep going, they will be too. They just need to hunker down, find a building, set up there. And then they discover that Maggie's gone and left a note for them. Don't risk your lives for me. Good luck. This was interesting to me. Bob insists on catching up to her, and then Sasha is clearly not going to go. And on first thought, I was like, okay, well, it's kind of like bird in the hand, right? Like you want to be with people. You can go with Maggie, who is your friend, or Sasha, who seems to be a little bit more than that. You can stay with her.
Yep.
Why go with Maggie instead? And I thought, is he just trying to test whether Sasha will go with him? And he's like thinking she probably will, but I don't think so. I think, this is right after they kiss, and he had quite the line. He's like, I'm going to try something here. I'm like, I wonder if that would actually work.
Also couldn't be followed by anything. She was not ready for what was about to happen.
He does a handstand. What do you think?
I've never tried one.
See, things work out. No, but then he does go, and she stays. Sasha stays, and I thought about it, and I'm like, well, it's not just about Maggie. It's about everyone, Tyrese and Glenn, and it's just, that's what he's a stand for, this wanting to bring everybody together and this optimism. And to stay with Sasha would be to deny that. And I actually think it was a smart move for his relationship with Sasha too, because he's just been sort of saying in a lot of different ways, this is who I am. I'm the kind of person who is hopeful and who wants to take a risk. He said to her, I thought you were tough, but it was about, he's the tough one because he's the one who's going to take this vulnerable risk. And not just the risk about whether Sanctuary is a good place or not, but the risk to let himself hope that Glenn and Tyrese could still be alive. Like that's a risk too for your heart, right? And he's like, that's the kind of person I want to be. So the worst thing you can do when you're just starting out a possible new relationship for somebody is immediately compromise on who you are,
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think probably Sasha appreciated that about him. She's like, what? He left, but he has integrity. Like he's not going to compromise on his purpose or his mission just because I'm staying here. And so that was maybe one reason why she was okay following him. And it was just a beautiful moment at the end when they all ended up together and he just nods like, okay, let's go.
Yep. I imagine part of that too is him not wanting Maggie to be alone. Like I think he has faith that Sasha will follow him, and he doesn't want Maggie to be alone. So he's like, I think the dominoes are going to fall in the way where if I follow Maggie, she's going to keep following, but he's not sure. He is taking a risk.
He's not sure.
Doing that.
But as we've been saying, he is an optimist. So maybe he just thought, she'll be along.
I just kissed her. She can't resist me.
But I think, it really fits more with who he is to go and try versus give up, And that moment where he's talking to her and asks her, why do you think Tyrese is dead? Because if you thought he was alive, you'd go to Terminus, right? And then he said, or are you just too afraid to find out if he's not? Up until now, I thought you were the toughest person I ever met. I love that because he's talking about a thing I always talk about, which is being vulnerable, opening yourself up to the risk of being disappointed. And, if you're afraid of something, she's afraid Tyrese is dead, so she's not even going to try, then there's a self-fulfilling prophecy in that where it's not going to kill Tyrese, but it could make it where she never sees him again. Like if she hadn't taken the risk to go look for him, then they may never have seen each other again. Yeah, just because she was too afraid to try.
Yep.
So what else? Anything else on that? Then Sasha sees Maggie sleeping with the zombies or something.
So I have been like mulling this over and over. So one of the things that happens in this episode, and we don't see it in this, is both of the green girls seem to pass out while fighting zombies. But I think what might have been happening is Maggie was using the technique of taking a couple of dead zombies and like covering yourself with them,
Okay.
which we see Daryl do with like T-Dog early on to protect him. He covers him with a bunch and then the zombies walk by. So that's what I think is happening, but it really looks like she just like fell asleep mid-fight and like just happened to get woken up when Sasha knocked the window out, but I'm gonna give her more credit.
But I don't have much more to say on that whole thing, but with Bob and Maggie and Sasha, but I loved Bob in this episode, and I was wondering what if Sasha was more like Ezekiel or Jerry? Would that be better for Bob if he, was with someone that was more like him? I don't know. I think it's kind of, sometimes it's good to balance each other out. Yeah. And it gave him something to do, like, I'm going to try to bring her a little bit more over to my side, which he seemed to have succeeded at. And that's always kind of nice. And I think, actually just thinking about how they're like me and Jenny, I don't know if I'd want another me. I don't think so.
Right. You just never park.
Yeah.
You just keep driving because there could be another better spot.
That's right. Circling and circling.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like in this episode that we are seeing the characters having effects on each other. Like they are making each other more optimistic or maybe even a little bit more pessimistic.
Or pragmatic, at least,
Yes, yeah. I think Bob does a good job for a bit of this of balancing between Sasha and Maggie. Like he takes on both of what things they're saying and he re-says it to the other person in a way that they'll understand. So he does like a really good job of staying in the middle, but not in a like sitting on the fence type of way. He's assertive, but he listens to all sides.
And just Maggie, too. We're used to her just being traumatized by what happened to Glenn. And here she's just resolute and hopeful. Like when she was telling Sasha, I forget exactly what she said, but it was like, you didn't think, I heard you say that Glenn was probably dead. And I thought maybe she was going to say, you're probably right. But she said, you're wrong.
You're right. Yeah.
And it was just nice to hear her be like, no, I'm not going to accept that. We're going to go find him. I feel like she is a character who has always very much stuck to their guns and what they believe. Yeah. And it's just continued. Absolutely. Yeah.
I will say, going back to this episode after having seen her in Dead City, I keep being like, I don't know. I don't believe she's like old enough to like have a kid. But then I saw this episode and I was like, oh wow, she looks really young in this. And I was like, okay, maybe she's aging very, very slowly. But in this, I could tell that this was a younger person. So I was like, all right, maybe she has aged and can have a kid in Dead City.
Yeah, I mean, she is old enough. She just looks damn good.
Yep.
All right. What do you got next?
I want to talk about Daryl a little bit. One of the things that I noticed in this episode, and I was trying to find other examples, is Daryl uses his name as a form of language multiple times throughout the show. So in this episode, the claimers come up to him, they say a bunch of stuff to him, and they ask him his name, and he says, Daryl. And in that moment, it's sort of like he's saying, like, hi, I'm with you guys. Let's go. But in comparison, when he's being held captive by Negan is trying to get him to say that he's Negan. So he goes in at one point and he's like, what's your name? And he just says, Daryl. And in that moment, Daryl means I'm not with you. I'm my own person. You haven't won. So it is funny that for a character who doesn't say much, his own name actually has multiple meanings behind it, depending on how he's saying it.
I like that. It's like that whole thing with dude. Or dude.
Yeah, dude. But yeah, my Daryl notes here are kind of like a hodgepodge of notes about the character that I picked up in this episode with some retrospect. He uses flowers a lot, which is kind of interesting. Like if you described any of the characters in the show and said like, oh yeah, the like tough southern rednecky guy. He's the one who brings up like the Cherokee roses. He grabs flowers to put on the grave when Beth is looking at the gravestone and thinking about Herschel. Just interesting that he's the one.
Yeah. And he uses them for meaning, like it's hope in the case of Sophia, and here it's just about honoring Herschel. And I like that was another moment with no dialogue, and it was all the better for it. They were just looking at a grave. It said, "Our beloved father," put the flowers on, right? I don't think they said much.
No, they didn't. Yeah, it just said beloved father. But yeah, I like there's some symmetry in this episode. And Daryl's part of that. In the beginning, he's out recruiting. At the end, he is recruited. And the other kind of symmetrical thing that happens with him involved is that in the beginning, Bob finds people and he is no longer alone, whereas Daryl finds people and he is now alone within that group. He's not himself. He's clearly not happy, and I think he mutes himself a bit to just get along. But I love that Beth has such an effect on him in this episode. He even says it without saying it, where he says like, oh, we could stay here and maybe this person's not too bad. If they are, we'll deal with it. And she's like, well, what changed? And he's like, he doesn't say it. And she's like, well, what changed? And you're like, come on, Beth. Like, obviously it was interacting with you, and just clearly he's like, I think this is a turning point for Daryl's character.
I mean, yeah, I thought, to me, that is where the Beth and Daryl relationship, it's one of those relationships kind of like Daryl and Carol, where you're like, is there something between them? I don't know. I think they're just friends. And the more time you spend with them, the more it's like, yeah, I think they're just friends. I mean, Carol came on to Daryl a couple times early on, but you just sort of settle into, no, this is just a great friendship, and they're one's a man, one's a woman, doesn't matter. With Beth and Daryl, I always thought of it as Beth maybe has a little bit of a crush on Daryl, but Daryl just thinks of her as first this kind of annoyance that he has to take care of, but then realizes she's a good, worthwhile person, and he feels inspired by that. But this scene, and then because of this scene, a couple other scenes in this episode made me feel like, no, I think they are trying to do a little bit of a zombie rom-com here. That moment, it felt like Daryl was sort of being shy because he's like, yeah, maybe I kind of like you. And he just suggested maybe we should just stay here together. So like maybe he is exploring the idea of there being something between them, even if it's only on a subconscious or barely conscious level. Like, I'm still not sure, but I'm leaning towards thinking that's where they were going with this, and then it just got cut off because I think that's right when the zombies attacked, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he's also just being vulnerable, and he's not a character who usually is vocally vulnerable to people.
But the vibe, though, it just felt kind of like it was even extra like mushy vulnerable kind of.
So something that might give some insight into this too is the song Beth is singing while Daryl is sleeping or resting in the coffin, the most comfortable bed he's ever had. Is a song
another
called
cute moment.
Yeah. A song called Be Good by the artist Waxahachie.
Oh, for some reason I thought that was an Emily Kinney original.
I think she also recorded a version of it.
Yes, she did, because ever since this episode came out, have that in my list, and I listen to it every once in a while still. I really like her version, but I didn't realize it was a cover.
I think it is a cover. Okay. I might be completely wrong here, but I'm pretty sure, because I read an article about the artist talking about this song. In a few words, Crutchfield profiles two people who love and trust each other deeply, who share their dreams and secret shames, but who would rather shotgun beers together than make out. Such friendships, like most beautiful things, are delicate, bound up in the reverie of Be Good is an understanding of what could happen if either party upsets the balance. The lyric says, that gets messy, you'll hurt me or I'll disappear. And I feel like those are things Beth kind of says to Daryl and things that sort of happen. In the last episode, he acts in a way where I feel like she's like, you're going to hurt me. And then in this episode, she just full on disappears and things get messy between the two of them.
Yeah.
But I do think it is leaning into the like, this could be a romantic relationship, but right now it's better that it's not.
I mean,
maybe.
Yeah, the lyrics do sound like, and now that I know it's a cover, it makes more sense. They didn't just play an Emily Kinney song. They picked a song that made sense for this relationship in this episode, and then she did a cover of it. But it says, It's unclear now what we intend. We're alone in our own world, and you don't want to be my boyfriend, and I don't want to be your girl. And that's a relief. We'll drink up our grief and pine for summer, and we'll buy beer to shotgun, and we'll lay in the lawn, and we'll be good. And yeah, so if you take that at face value, it's like, no, we don't want to be each other's boyfriend or girlfriend. We should just be friends and leave it that way so that it doesn't cause any problems. But it's like, well, then why are you singing the song? Because it's an issue. That's why. You know what I mean?
The option is there. Yeah. So for Daryl, him chasing after the car, I feel like is incredibly sad. And like, you clearly tell he does have an attachment to her, and he has basically run all night. He's run all the energy out of him. When he first starts chasing the car, it's dark. When we see him doing his like 10-meter sprints, it's morning. So he has just run all night chasing after her. And then he comes to a crossroads, and it's just like, which way do I even go? And I think out of all of the characters in the show at the time, he's the only one that I think could have run into the claimers and it not have been a problem one way or the other. I don't think anybody else could have really ingratiated themselves with the group the way he can.
I mean, Bob would have just been like, hey, I'm Bob. Let's go. Right. I found another group. But
I don't care who you guys are.
Exactly. But I don't know if they would have accepted him. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Daryl could fit in.
Yeah,
he could pass.
So I think this is like the beginning of his trial through fire. Like he's been vulnerable with somebody emotionally, and now he's going back with this group that's kind of has a similar vibe to Merle.
Yeah.
And this is sort of his first interaction with that type of group since he has kind of shed Merle and that identity. So it's kind of his chance to find out like, oh, am I this person even when I'm thrust back into this world? And I think that's a really interesting thing to have happen, especially right after everything he went through with Beth.
And it's very much the same vibe as Merle, because Merle and Daryl were going to rob the camp at the quarry in season 1 of Walking Dead. We find out later in season 3. And these are the claimers who just claim whatever they want. So I think I bet you the reason why the claimers are a part of this series is because of this sequence where they wanted to have Daryl sort of flirt with the idea of being something more and then have it get thrown back in his face, and so then he's like, oh, maybe I'm just a dirt bag, let me explore that for a little while.
This is what I deserve. Yeah. And I think if he had run into them prior to everything that just happened with Beth, like if he had ended up on his own after the prison, he seemed pretty like down on himself and blaming himself and like in a very hurt place. I think if he had met the claimers then, he might have just sunk into that and been like, yeah, no, this is who I am. But I think what he went through with Beth helped remind him, no, you're a good person. There are good people out in the world. There's still hope. And she like gets him over that kind of pessimistic view. So I think he's able to actually survive this trial, I'm calling it, with the claimers and come out a good person still.
I mean, if he had met the claimers and not been with Beth, and then they met Rick and Michonne and Carl, was it just the 3 of them? Yeah. And then Rick like bit one of their throats out and killed them all, and I think Daryl still would have been like, yeah, I didn't really like those guys.
No, I agree with
he
that.
Wouldn't be like, why'd you kill my friends?
Yeah, he'd be like, sorry, Rick, I'm one of these guys now. You know how it is. I didn't go through an emotional breakthrough with Beth or anything, so.
No, I get what you're saying, though. Yeah, it really had an impact on him. He was feeling very nihilistic before the last episode still, and Beth brought him back around to being engaged with life again and hopeful and just, just shined some light on him.
Yeah. And he's tolerant of her singing now because she says, you always said my singing annoyed you. Yeah. Which is interesting. I love when they add those little things because it's like, yeah, they lived together for a long time. Mm-hmm. There was probably an interaction where he was just like, yeah, knock it off. That's so annoying.
I liked he's teaching her to track and she sees zigzaggy tracks and realizes it's a walker, and he said maybe it's a drunk, which I thought was kind of fun because when you go on the show as a walker, they tell you to act drunk. When they got to the cemetery, I remember wishing for a zombie hand to come out of a grave, but didn't happen.
No.
I mean, there were a lot of cute moments with Daryl and Beth, and I really do think that they were hitting on this sort of rom-com-ness of it, just him carrying her, through the threshold kind
over
of thing.
The threshold.
Holding hands, laying in the coffin, asking her to sing, and then the whole in the kitchen, they're just kind of being, oh, what do you mean by that? I don't know. It was just cute and fun, and yeah,
it does sort of feel like, knowing Daryl's backstory, this might have been like the first time he's really had like a one-on-one with like any other person in like a flirtatious way. Like I imagine his childhood, he wasn't spending a lot of time sitting around with a girl, just like,
not that we've heard of. Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah. So it's possible this is us seeing him like reverting back to high school Daryl and being like, oh, I don't know, like.
I also just have a note here to remind people that I interviewed Emily Kinney in the episode. It was in between like season 5. I think it was just before she died, but I didn't know it at the time. But I do think I remember sensing it from her. Like, I'm like, I think she's going to die just by the way she's talking. But anyway, that's episode 163, which you can listen to on our website if you want to.
Nice.
Podcastica.com, link in the show notes. Okay, I want to talk about zombie action.
Yes.
I remember loving the scene with Bob, Maggie, and Sasha in the fog with the whispering zombies ahead coming out of the mist.
That has changed the way I see fog since then. Like, really? There's an area I drive through where it gets really foggy, and my thought is always, how far away can I see a zombie coming?
Did you watch The Mist?
No, I haven't actually.
No, that.
Yeah. Where they're all trapped in the store.
Yeah, and all these. It's actually I think it was the inspiration for Half-Life, the game.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Because all these interdimensional creatures start coming out of the mist.
Yes. I feel like I know a bunch about it. Like the fact that Melissa McBride's in it, and
Jeffrey DeMunn,
the guy who played. Yep. But I haven't watched it.
Who else? There's one other one. I think it was Laurie Holden.
Holden, yeah.
She's like one of the main ones. The Zed storm, what I'm calling the funeral home. I thought that was a pretty thrilling sequence too. Daryl just barely escaping and fighting them off.
And using the environment to his advantage, like putting something between him.
Yeah, that was cool. But the moment that stood out to me in this episode, as I said earlier, the most is when he runs outside and finds her stuff and sees that car driving away. Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Poor Daryl.
And you sit there just thinking about it for another half of a season. Like, where the hell is Beth? I think I remember back when this was airing that there was some speculation that maybe that was Father Gabriel because there was a cross on the back and they were just leaving what felt like it could have been a church. And at the time I hadn't read the comic, so I was like, oh man,